Well, good afternoon, everyone. Thank you to everybody for being here today, and a special thank you to K-State Olathe for hosting us today. And for folks who I haven't had a chance to meet yet, I'm Sharice Davids. I represent the Kansas 3rd Congressional District in Congress, and I do want to start off by just thanking a couple of people who joined us today. U.S. Deputy Secretary Xochitl Torres Small, Senator Pat Roberts, Representatives Slattery, and then former Chairman of the Ag Committee, Colin Peterson, the Kansas Secretary of Agriculture, Mike Beam, and then so many key stakeholders in ag in the state have joined us today, and it's been a real honor getting the chance to work with folks here because of the importance of the agricultural sector in the Kansas economy, and just because I like you guys. My team and I did the math, and hopefully this is a compliment. All the folks that I mentioned who have joined us have over 130 years of combined experience in the ag sector, supporting America's farmers and agribusinesses. And I continue to learn from all of you daily, and certainly have been very, very grateful and thankful for your leadership. So there's a couple of things that I want to touch on. One is today has been fun, of course, I think. Senator? Yeah, fun. He said fun. And informative. Look, we got the chance to start the day with a tour of Finley Farms in Edgerton, and this is a prime example of a thriving agricultural small business right here in our own community. They're currently in the process of planting corn for the season, and so they're not sitting here with us because they're busy. But we did get to see their operation and learn a bunch about the work that they do. And then we just got done with a discussion with agriculture professionals from across the region and across the state to learn more about what's going on. When we're talking about challenges, when we're talking about how the federal government can support our farmers and growers, and truly we have some real experts here in our state and in this community. And every time I engage in these conversations, I learn a ton, and certainly get a chance to see the dedication of all the folks. I also see how much more there is for me to learn, and that was certainly true today. The expertise that I've gotten to see continues to amaze me. I started to see that when I did my Farm Bill listening tour last year, and got the chance to go to each of the counties in the Kansas 3rd, and was out in Garnett, went to KCK, and you can see that the economy and the future of our state is so tied up into how well our farmers and producers and ag sector are doing. And I think that some of what we need to do is really get to the root of that was a pun. Get to the root of issues that folks are facing, and make sure that we're addressing some of the most pressing challenges that people are really dealing with. And thankfully, Kansas actually has two voices on the House Agriculture Committee. I serve alongside Congressman Tracy Mann, and I think that having two Kansas voices on that committee is so vital, and I'm really excited to get the chance to do that. I didn't get on the Ag Committee until this session. at the end of last session of Congress, the Kansas Third is now a bit more rural and has a lot more farmers and producers. And when I initially got onto the committee, when I initially got into Congress, actually, Senator Roberts took the time to share some insights and advice with me. And then same thing when I got onto the Ag Committee, Senator Roberts literally gave me this 1 hour crash course on some of the most important aspects of the Farm Bill that I need to know as a member of the House Ag Committee, and particularly a member from Kansas. And he has been an invaluable resource, not just for me, but for my team, to make sure that we're doing things like protecting crop insurance. And I know that the Farm Bill is something that a lot of folks are thinking about, myself included, and wanting to see that get reauthorized this year. I told the group earlier, I've been saying this for a while, but the Farm Bill is not just it's not just this piece of paper. It's actually a critical piece of legislation and lifeline for our farmers and producers. There are vital resources and protections that help our farmers and producers, whether it's navigating market fluctuations or other unforeseen challenges that come up. This reauthorization of the Farm Bill has traditionally been this bipartisan effort in both the House and the Senate. And my key concern, and what we heard today in our roundtable, is every single one of us, in my view, that's that's a decision maker and lawmaker right now, needs to do everything we can to make sure that politics doesn't hinder the ability for us to actually help and support our farmers access those essential resources that help with daily decision making, that help with business operations, and frankly putting food on their tables, because they're putting food on everybody else's table. And I think that it might look to some like we can't get anything done in Washington because of things like partisan gridlock. But we do manage to get some stuff done a little more often than folks might realize. And I take every single opportunity I can to have conversations with my colleagues, Democrats, Republicans, if it means that we're going to actually get some stuff done for the Kansas Third, for the state of Kansas, and really for our country. So I want to stop there because I've said a lot already, I feel like. So I do want to once again thank everybody who's joining us. I'm going to turn this over now to Kansas Agriculture Secretary Mike Beam, and then I'll come back after everyone has spoken, and we can do a bit of Q&A.
Thank you. Well, thank you for including me. It's been quite a day. I've enjoyed it immensely. Secretary of Ag, I always am quick to remind folks that agriculture is a pretty significant part of the Kansas economy. Probably most of you know that, but the 72 sectors of agriculture contributes over $85 billion to this state's economy. Those 72 sectors have 13% of the workforce in this state directly related to those. And it's even probably fitting to talk about that in this district. Obviously, there's a lot of farmers and ranchers, traditional farmers and ranchers, very progressive and very dedicated, multi-generation farms and ranches. But as you assemble the group today, it become very obvious that there's a lot of other sectors that are not just important in Kansas, but worldwide. When you think about the specialty crops, animal health, agricultural credit, on and on, they were at the table, and I think there was some good discussions, and it's a very important district for agriculture, and we appreciate your dedication. I'd also like to publicly thank USDA Deputy Secretary Torres Small. I hope when you go back you will relay our appreciation for the hard work that your folks did, especially over the weekend, because we had some animal disease situation that kind of brewed, and it really hit, a lot of the information started coming forth over the weekend, and USDA folks, as you might not always understand, were there working all weekend and making sure to answer the question, get the correct information, put together the right message, and of course was able to put that out in a timely manner. So again, I would just say it was an impressive group, and I think the reason you had such a good group is not only are you on the Ag Committee, but they recognize you as a very genuine person who's a good listener, and we're just proud to be here and spend the day with you. Thank you very much.
And it's my pleasure to invite up Senator Pat Roberts.
All senators have staff. Zach is standing in the back there, worried to death about what I'm going to say. I have my script right in front of me, which I am not going to use. That's just a senatorial way of saying things. You've already said the speech, Michael, but at any rate, there's an old expression that the best thing you can do if you're in public office is to sit on the wagon tongue with farmers and ranchers and growers and listen. Colin Peterson knows that. Colin is a great chairman twice. House Ag Committee, we would not have the 218 bill were it not for him. Jim Slattery did the same thing for the 12 years he served very well in the House of Representatives. I could keep going, but we don't have enough time to do that. At any rate, thanks, guys, for being here. At any rate, Sharice Davids came to visit me when she was first elected. I recommended about 4 or 5 general things, and I'll be darned if I think that she didn't follow every one of them, and obviously has been elected 3 times now. So at any rate, she's doing a great job. She's on the Ag Committee. She is sitting on the wagon tongue and listening. I don't think wagon tongue applies really to Findlay Farms by any sense of the imagination. This is a 6th generation farmers. Do you realize how unusual that is? And probably the most serious question we have is, where is the next generation of farmers going to come from? Findlay Farms has that answer, so our hats off for that tour. Let me just say that something about the Farm Bill, we've had a big discussion about it. Colin's a little more pessimistic than I am. 80% I say no, we will not have a Farm Bill this year. He says 100% no. I'm not too sure. Farmer never put the seed in the ground if he or she didn't have optimism that he wouldn't have a crop. This year is different. It's different from 2018. Always before, the Ag Committee would come up with a bipartisan agreement. House and Senate may not agree. You come to conference, and Colin was a great member of the conference committee. We wouldn't have had a farm bill without Colin. But we know that the most important thing when you get down to it is to get a bill passed, to provide farmers certainty and predictability. That is the most important question you have with a farm bill. Unfortunately, that is not the most important question that we see today in the House of Representatives. The stars in our constellation are much different from the ones that we are today. I chalk that up to ideology and partisanship. And I'm just going to be very frank. We have something called the Freedom Caucus. Sounds pretty good. And to some extent, they do, from a conservative standpoint, what needs to be done. But not with the 21 that are saying no far too often and getting into changing speakers and Lord knows what else. That's not the House that I represented for many years, or for that matter, the Senate. And it is very troubling to me. I don't know what to say about that, except that when you're dealing with an ideologue, of which I call the 8 knuckleheads, pardon that term, but I feel pretty strong about it. If you're an ideologue, they're right, you're wrong. And no amount of talking or reasonable conversation or whatever is going to bring them to the table. That's what we're faced with. Quite frankly, the Republican Party in the House of Representatives is in danger of losing their majority due to this kind of performance or non-performance and they're not doing their constituents any favors, as pointed out by Jim Slattery in our discussions. So I can only hope that in the end result, maybe the Farm Bill will be the one item that people will say we have to get a Farm Bill on behalf of those who produce food for America at the cheapest and the most quality in the world, and also a troubled and hungry world. What greater kind of accomplishment can you do other than that? So I'm very hopeful that we can break this logjam if we possibly can. However, I think I have to be realistic. It's about time somebody actually said some of the things that I have just said. And Sharice, thank you very much. You have been an absolute jewel. You've had a wonderful group of people here giving us advice, with the exception that I talk too much, but that's what I do. Thank you. I'm a senator. Thank you.
I'll give a little buffer here for the Undersecretary. Deputy Secretary. I'm sorry. I'm always just like head honcho. Yeah. I do want to. I feel like after hearing from Senator Roberts, I have to say how much I've appreciated all the folks who take the time to visit with me and talk to me regardless of party. My job is to represent the 3rd District in the U.S. House, and getting onto the Ag Committee was one of the steps that I took to hopefully do the best job of representing this district in the House that I can. Pushing for a farm bill is absolutely an effort that I take to try to represent this district the best that I can. And so I just appreciate, again, everybody who took the time to come to our roundtable. I would love now to turn over the mic to Deputy Secretary Torres Small from the USDA.
You know, it's worth noting that everyone who's come up talked about Finley Farms. It was a really exciting, wonderful place to start the morning, and I think the reason why is because it was about hope. It was about seeing those 6 generations, and it was also about partnership. It was about an investment that was made through USDA to put in terrace tiles and help with drainage that then is allowing them to manage that water. And through that partnership, through EQIP, which I don't always use acronyms, but EQIP is a household name for any farmer. And it was through that investment that they were able to look at the best way, the most efficient way to grow their corn and to be able to pass that farm on for generations. Congresswoman Davids talked about getting things done. And sometimes it's hard to have that same hope when it comes to getting things done. But when it comes to programs like EQIP, Congresswoman Davids is getting things done. Through the passage of the Inflation Reduction Act, there's been dramatic investments in this household name program that is making enormous differences right now in farmland all across Kansas. And as we continue to try to get things done together, I think there is this opportunity for hope. It really comes through investing in farmers. One of the things I love about working at USDA is that we know we succeed when we invest in farmers and rural communities. We invest in people and access to food. And when you pay in those investments, it comes back. So just last year in FY23, Farm Service Agency invested $900 million in Kansas farmers, both in terms of their regular loan programs and then also because they're recovering from drought and other challenges there. But we know that when we invest in farmers, we all succeed. And Congresswoman Davids gets that to a T. So it's an honor to get to work with her. It's an honor to get to work with this incredible brain trust that you assembled today. And we're here to all work together to continue that hope. So thank you.
Okay. Well, thank you again, everyone, for sharing your thoughts And I just, like the folks who gathered today are the reason that we have such a thriving ag environment and economy here in this state. And before we conclude, I'm going to open it up for some questions. I see there's a question here.
Hi,
And
Representative
go ahead.
David.
Yeah.
Danielle Leo with Channel 41. As a member of the Transportation Committee, I've got to ask you about the situation about Baltimore and the immediate impact it's going to have here in Kansas.
Yeah, that's a great question. It's actually one of the questions that I posed to our roundtable today. I do know that, well, first of all, shocking and a tragedy what we saw yesterday. I don't know if maybe like a lot of people, I saw video footage and was closely monitoring what was going on. Had a conversation with Ranking Member Larson from the Transportation and Infrastructure Committee to ensure that all of us are, ready, willing, and able to look at what federal resources. I know the administration has already made some comments about that. At this point, making sure that the families of the folks who have been impacted know that we are all thinking about them. In fact, some folks from the Kansas community asked me to share that with folks out in Baltimore. I don't know yet exactly what the impact is going to be. The Baltimore port is actually one that has some major imports coming in, particularly for farm equipment and heavy construction equipment. And so some of the folks who are at the roundtable today are actually going to stay in contact with me to help me stay apprised of what the immediate impact looks like for the folks here at home. But this will be it'll be something that has an impact both for imports and for exports, because a lot of exports go out. But these are all preliminary reports I've seen, so I'm not exactly sure what the full impact will be.
Do you have a timeline as to when it's going to,
well, right now, and we've been on this tour all day, so the last update I had, there was still recovery, search and rescue type efforts going on, and the NTSB is just starting their evaluation and investigation, and then I imagine that I probably will have a briefing either later on today or sometime tomorrow regarding the tragedy, and would be happy to stay in touch with you about it.
thank you.
Oh, I'll go there and then there. Okay. Ooh, this feels like when you're watching. It's silly.
Governor News. Our part of the state is growing exponentially.
Exponentially, that's right.
Commercially, housing, industrial, and there are a lot of people that are worried about that pushing the family farms, like Finley Farms, out. How do you plan on protecting family farms?
Yeah, so the first thing I would say is I view my role as the representative for the whole of the 3rd District, which is, for folks who might not be familiar, is all of Johnson County, all of Anderson County, Franklin County, and Miami counties, and then a portion of Wyandotte County. And I absolutely think of this role as being one of collaboration and listening and trying to support with federal resources where I can. I think that the work that I've seen going on with our county governments, and then particularly with some of the cities, whether it's DeSoto, Gardner, Edgerton, folks really do want to make sure that the thing that makes our communities magic, that we people know each other, people are there to support each other. That's a really important piece of the stuff of these communities. And so I'm definitely working with those municipalities and the county governments to make sure that that while we're all very excited about the growth, that we don't lose the thing that makes us special. And I think that that is everything from the stuff you mentioned, which is making sure people still have still have access to some of the great resources that we have, improving access to electricity, broadband, which has been a huge topic of conversation today, and of course, stormwater, wastewater to prevent flooding, and then making sure that people can afford to continue to live in the communities that they've called home for so long.
Just want to follow up on the broadband part of it, because I heard on the tour that was one of the concerns that Finley Farms brought up.
Yeah. So I was like, who's here to talk about it? No. Sorry, this is a little shout out to Chairman Colin Peterson here. So a couple of things that I would point to is when the Congress, in the last session of Congress, when the Congress passed the bipartisan infrastructure bill, the Inflation Reduction Act, and the CHIPS and Science Act, which is domestic manufacturing, there was a serious eye toward how do we actually get broadband implemented and sent out into rural communities, and sometimes communities. There are places in Johnson County, we saw today, that don't actually have broadband access yet. And so we want to make sure that the places where it makes sense, and USDA, and I don't know if Deputy Secretary Torres Small, if you want to talk a little bit about the work you guys are doing specifically around broadband, but in these pieces of legislation that we've passed, we've really wanted to make sure that we're not just looking at one piece of that problem, because the broadband issue touches it touches rural communities, it touches urban cores, it touches our suburban areas, and so through those three pieces of legislation, we did provide resources and some programming to help alleviate the lack of broadband access. And USDA is actually doing, and rural development is actually doing quite a bit of work around that. Do you want to share anything about the work that rural development's doing? Okay.
Sure. So sometimes people wonder why there's a mission area called rural development in the Department of Agriculture. But this is a key example of why, because crucial infrastructure. In the 1930s, it was electrifying the nation and making sure farms had access to energy. Now it's about making sure they have high-speed internet and that they have that same infrastructure. So in the bipartisan infrastructure law, which Congresswoman Davids supported, there was $2 billion through rural development that was invested in high-speed internet. All of those awards have been made, and I remember the first time I talked to someone who was connected because of that. And she was from a rural place, had moved away, but wanted her kids to be able to grow up similar to how she did in a rural community. And she was able to come back home and do her job from her home. She was able to work from home and had the internet that allowed her to do that so that her kids could go to the same elementary school she went to. And that's the kind of impact that you could have investing in high-speed internet.
Yeah, there's no doubt that that's a big investment, and there are a lot of areas to cover. I guess my question is, because we're talking about, what is it, 35-minute drive from here, and yet they're kind of, more or less off the grid. It seems like that might surprise some people.
It is that last mile that is the hardest, right? So if you can get it close to a farm, but then finally getting it to a farm can be the biggest challenge. So what's been done through the bipartisan infrastructure law is the first money that went out for infrastructure was Reconnect, was through the United States Department of Agriculture, and that went directly to service providers. Additional money is coming, so it's a total $60 billion investment. It's coming through the states, and so that money is taking a little bit more time to be invested, but that money is there and is working hard to get to the people who need it.
Thanks. Okay.
Any more questions?
I see anybody jumping up. Okay. All right. Well, thank you all so much. Have a great rest of your day. Stay warm.